The Valkyrie Empire had watched Earth for almost 100 years. Their ships hid behind the moon, recording everything. They watched humans build cities. They watched humans fight wars. They watched humans throw away mountains of garbage every single day. The Valkyrie thought humans were weak, stupid, and wasteful. They believed conquering Earth would be easy. Commander Thalvax stood on the bridge of his massive warship. He looked down at the blue and green planet below. His gray skin reflected the light from the control screens around him. His four eyes blinked slowly as he studied the data. "These creatures are primitive," he said to his officers. "They still burn dead plants for energy. They poison their own water. They cannot even agree on simple things among themselves. This invasion will take 3 days. Perhaps less." The other Valkyrie officers laughed. They had conquered 12 planets before Earth. Every species had surrendered quickly once they saw the power of Valkyrie weapons. Humans would be no different. On a Tuesday morning in the year 2847, the sky changed forever. 1,000 Valkyrie ships appeared over every major city on Earth. They blocked out the sun. They sent a message in every human language. "People of Earth, we are the Valkyrie Empire. Your planet now belongs to us. Surrender your governments. Surrender your weapons. Resistance will result in death. You have 6 hours to comply." The world went silent. People stood in the streets, looking up at the massive ships. Governments tried to respond. Military forces prepared to fight. But everyone knew the truth. Human weapons were toys compared to what floated above them. Then something strange happened. Something the Valkyrie did not expect. Humans started to disappear. Not everyone. Not all at once. But slowly, quietly, people began to leave the cities. They took food. They took tools. They took their families. They walked into forests, climbed into mountains, and crawled into the forgotten places of the world. They went to the abandoned factories. They went to the old mines. They went to the massive garbage dumps that covered parts of every country. Commander Thalvax watched the cities empty. He did not understand. Where are they going? He asked his science officer. The science officer, a young female named Kethra, studied her screens. They appeared to be fleeing to unpopulated areas, forests, deserts, and waste disposal sites. Waste disposal sites? You mean they're garbage dumps? Yes, Commander. Thalvax made a sound of disgust. They are hiding in their own trash? How pathetic. Send ground forces to the cities. Secure the government buildings. The humans will return when they get hungry. The Valkyrie ground forces landed 3 days later. Thousands of soldiers in shining armor marched through empty streets. They found abandoned cars. They found empty houses. They found food still sitting on tables, growing cold. But they did not find humans. The reports confused the High Council back on the Valkyrie homeworld. An entire planet of 8 billion people had simply walked away. Where were they? What were they doing? Why did they not fight or surrender like every other species? The answer came 2 weeks later. A Valkyrie patrol walked through an abandoned neighborhood in what was once called Detroit. The buildings here were already falling apart before the invasion. Humans had left this place long ago. Garbage filled the streets. Broken cars sat on every corner. The patrol leader thought it was the ugliest place he had ever seen. Then he heard a sound. A strange whistling noise, getting louder. He looked up just in time to see something flying toward him. It looked like a metal ball, covered in rust and held together with tape. He almost laughed at how primitive it looked. The ball exploded with the force of a small bomb. When the smoke cleared, 3 Valkyrie soldiers were dead. Their armor, which could stop laser blasts, had been torn apart by shrapnel made from crushed aluminum cans and broken glass. More attacks followed. In Snow Paulo, A retired engineer named Maria Santos led a group of survivors who built weapons from garbage. They discovered that aluminum cans, crushed tightly and filled with a chemical mixture made from pool cleaner and rust, could burn through Valkyrie armor. They called their invention trash fire. In Tokyo, a group of students used old electronics to build machines that confused Valkyrie sensors. The aliens could not see them coming. They could not track them. Their advanced technology was useless against devices made from broken televisions and discarded phones. In Cairo, farmers used ancient knowledge and modern garbage to create traps. They dug holes and filled them with sharpened metal from old cars. They built catapults from wooden pallets and launched burning plastic at Valkyrie camps. Commander Thalvex lost 50 soldiers in the first month. Then 100. Then 200. He could not understand what was happening. His forces controlled every city, every road, every piece of valuable land. Yet humans kept appearing from nowhere, attacking with impossible weapons, and vanishing back into the wilderness. He called a meeting with his officers. "Explain this to me," he demanded. "We have the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. We have ships that can destroy mountains. We have armor that can survive a nuclear blast. How are we losing soldiers to creatures who fight with garbage?" No one had an answer. Kethra, the science officer, spoke quietly. "Commander, I have been studying human history. I think I understand what is happening." "Then speak." Kethra pulled up images on the main screen. Pictures of ancient humans with stone tools. Pictures of medieval humans with metal swords. Pictures of humans in factories, building machines from raw materials. "Humans are not like other species we have conquered," she said. "Other species surrender when they see superior force. They give up. They accept defeat. But humans do not think this way. When humans face a problem they cannot solve, they do not surrender. They adapt. They change. They find a new way." She showed more images. Humans building shelters from ice. Humans crossing oceans on wooden boats. Humans surviving in deserts with almost no water. For their entire history, humans have survived by using whatever they could find. Rocks, sticks, metal, anything. They're not primitive, Commander. They are creative, dangerously creative. Thalvex stared at the screen. For the first time since the invasion began, he felt something he had never felt before. Fear. Outside, in the darkness of a massive garbage dump, Maria Santos smiled as she finished building her newest weapon. It was made from car parts, broken glass, and the circuit boards from dead computers. It was ugly. It was dirty. And it was going to change everything. "Let them come," she whispered to her team. "We have plenty of trash. And we are just getting started." 6 months passed since the Valkyrie invaded Earth. The aliens controlled the skies. They controlled the cities. They controlled the power plants and the water supplies. But they did not control the garbage dumps. They did not control the junkyards. They did not control the dark, forgotten places where humans hid and planned, and built their impossible weapons. Maria Santos became a legend during those months. Stories about her spread from camp to camp, carried by brave runners who crossed enemy territory at night. They said she could build a bomb from a soda can. They said she could make a gun from pipes and rubber bands. They said she had killed more Valkyrie than any soldier on Earth. Most of the stories were true. Maria stood in the middle of her camp, which she had built inside an old landfill outside Snow Hollow. Mountains of garbage rose around her like walls of a fortress. The smell would have made most people sick, but Maria did not notice anymore. To her, this place smelled like home. It smelled like survival. "Bring me the batteries," she called out. A young man named Paulo ran over with a box full of old car batteries. His clothes were torn and dirty. His face was thin from not eating enough, but his eyes were bright with hope. "We found these in an abandoned parking structure," Paulo said. "There are hundreds more. Maybe thousands." Maria smiled. "Good. With these, we can build 20 more pulse bombs. Maybe 30. The pulse bomb was Maria's greatest invention. It used the acid from car batteries, the copper from old wires, and the magnets from broken speakers. When it exploded, it created a wave of energy that destroyed all electronics nearby. Valkyrie armor was full of electronics. Their weapons were full of electronics. One pulse bomb could disable an entire patrol. Across the world, other camps learned to build pulse bombs. They also learned to build other things. In Detroit, a man named James Carter led a group of former auto workers. Before the invasion, they had built cars in the giant factories that lined the river. Now those factories were empty and dark. But the knowledge remained. The skills remained. And the parts remained. James stood in front of a strange machine. It was made from the frame of a pickup truck, the engine of a motorcycle, and the barrel of an old water pipe. It looked like something from a nightmare. It looked like it should not work at all. "Fire it up," James said. One of his workers pressed a button made from a doorbell. The machine roared to life. The pipe barrel glowed red hot. Then, with a sound like thunder, it launched a ball of melted metal and glass across the factory floor. The ball hit a concrete wall and exploded, leaving a hole 3 feet wide. James laughed with joy. "We just built a cannon. A cannon from junk. Those alien bastards won't know what hit them." He was right. The Valkyrie did not know what hit them. Their sensors could detect military weapons from miles away. They could track missiles. They could see tanks. They could find soldiers carrying guns. But they could not detect a cannon made from car parts. They could not track bombs made from batteries and magnets. Their advanced technology was designed to fight advanced enemies. It was useless against enemies who fought with garbage. In Mumbai, a group of teenagers changed the war forever. They were students before the invasion, studying engineering at the university. Now they lived in a slum made of plastic sheets and cardboard boxes. They had no weapons. They had no training. But they had knowledge. Their leader was a 19-year-old girl named Priya. She was small and quiet, with dark eyes that missed nothing. Before the invasion, she wanted to design computers. Now she designed something different. "The Valkyrie communicate using radio waves," she explained to her group. "But their radios work on frequencies we do not use. That is why we cannot listen to them. But if we can find the right frequency..." She held up a device made from broken phones, old radios, and wire stolen from a construction site. It looked like a ball of metal and plastic, held together with tape and hope. "This device will find their frequency. Once we know how they talk, we can listen. And once we can listen, we can predict where they will go." It took 3 weeks, but Priya found the frequency. Suddenly, the human resistance knew everything. They knew when Valkyrie patrols would move. They knew where supplies were stored. They knew which commanders were weak and which were strong. The information spread across the world through an underground network of runners, hidden radio stations, and coded messages. Human attacks became more effective. Ambush struck at exactly the right moment. Supplies disappeared from Valkyrie bases hours before reinforcements arrived. Commander Thalvex grew desperate. He ordered his forces to destroy all garbage dumps, all junkyards, all places where humans might find materials for their weapons. But there was too much garbage. Earth was covered in it. Destroying it all would take years. He tried a different approach. He captured humans and questioned them about their weapons. Where did the designs come from? Who was leading the resistance? How did they communicate? The captured humans laughed at him. "You want to know our secret?" One prisoner said, an old man from Cairo. We have no secret. Humans have always been this way. We survived ice ages with rocks and fire. We crossed oceans with wooden boards. We went to the moon with machines we built in our garages. You think we need advanced technology to fight you? We do not need anything except our hands and our minds and whatever trash we can find. The old man leaned closer, his eyes burning with defiance. You made a mistake coming here, alien. You thought our garbage was a sign of weakness. You were wrong. Our garbage is our history. Every piece of junk on this planet is proof that we know how to build things, how to create things, how to turn nothing into something. You cannot defeat people like us. We are too stubborn to die. The Volcari interrogator did not understand. How could garbage be a strength? How could waste be a weapon? These humans made no sense, but the evidence was clear. Every week, more Volcari soldiers died. Every week, human attacks grew more sophisticated. Every week, the invaders controlled less territory than before. In her camp in São Paulo, Maria Santos received a message from across the ocean. A group in Lagos had built something new, something that could change everything. They call it a shield, Paulo explained, reading the message. It is made from plastic bottles filled with sand. They say it can stop Volcari energy weapons. Maria's eyes went wide. Plastic bottles? That is impossible. They tested it. They say the energy gets absorbed by the sand. The plastic melts a little, but it does not break through. Maria sat down heavily on a pile of tires. For the first time in months, she felt tears in her eyes. Not tears of sadness, tears of pride. We are going to win this war, she whispered. We are going to win with plastic bottles and car batteries and broken phones. The most advanced empire in the galaxy is going to lose to our garbage. She stood up and raised her voice so everyone in the camp could hear. Send a message to every camp on Earth. Tell them what Lagos discovered. Tell them to collect every plastic bottle they can find. Tell them that the Volcari are going to learn what happens when you underestimate humans. She paused and smiled. Tell them the scavengers are rising. The Volcari High Council met in their great chamber on their homeworld, 10,000 light years from Earth. The chamber was built from crystal and light, beautiful beyond human imagination. 12 council members sat in a circle, their gray faces serious and worried. They had never been worried before. They had conquered planets easily for thousands of years. But Earth was different. Read the report again, commanded the Supreme Elder. The oldest and wisest of the council, a young officer, stood in the center of the circle, his voice shaking. In the past 12 months, we have lost 4,732 soldiers. We have lost 47 attack ships. We have lost control of 63% of the planet's surface. Human resistance continues to grow despite all efforts to stop it. The Supreme Elder raised one gray hand. Tell us about their weapons. The officer swallowed nervously. This was the part he did not want to share. The humans do not have factories. They do not have military bases. They build their weapons from waste materials, discarded items, things they threw away before we arrived. Garbage, said another council member. You are telling us they fight with garbage? Yes, Elder, garbage. Silence filled the chamber. The council members looked at each other in confusion. This made no sense. The Volcari had studied hundreds of species across the galaxy. None of them had ever done anything like this. Back on Earth, the humans called it the Garbage Wars. It was a name they spoke with pride. Not shame. James Carter and his Detroit crew had spread their knowledge across North America. Now there were dozens of camps building weapons from car parts. They made cannons. They made armored vehicles. They made drones from toy helicopters that carried bombs made from fireworks and nails. The Valkyrie had no defense against the drones. Their sensors could not detect toys. Their weapons could not track objects so small and slow. The drones would float silently over Valkyrie camps at night, drop their bombs, and float away before anyone knew what happened. In Europe, the resistance learned to use the land itself as a weapon. They flooded streets by blocking sewers with garbage. They collapsed buildings by removing key supports. They created mazes of traps and barriers that no vehicle could pass. A Valkyrie commander named Vorthax tried to drive his patrol through a city called Warsaw. He thought the city was empty. His sensors showed no weapons, no soldiers, no threats. He was wrong. The first vehicle in his patrol drove over a pile of old tires. Underneath the tires was a hole, 20 feet deep, filled with broken glass and sharpened metal. The vehicle fell and was destroyed instantly. The second vehicle tried to turn around, but hit a wire stretched across the street. The wire pulled down a wall of bricks that crushed the vehicle flat. The third vehicle was hit by a ball of burning plastic, launched from somewhere in the buildings above. The plastic stuck to the armor and burned through it in minutes. Vorthax survived by running away on foot. He ran for 3 hours through streets filled with traps before he reached safety. When he reported to Commander Thalvex, his voice was broken. "They are everywhere and nowhere," he said. "They attack from shadows. They disappear into walls. They use our own technology against us." I watched a human child throw a device at my soldier. The device was made from a music player and some wire. It made my soldier's armor lock up. He could not move. Then the child hit him with a rock until he died. He paused, struggling to continue. "They are not fighting a war. They are hunting us, and they are enjoying it." This was true. Humans had discovered something strange about themselves during the garbage wars. They were good at this. Really good. Thousands of years of human history had prepared them for exactly this kind of fight. Humans had always been scavengers. Before they built cities, they survived by finding things and using them in clever ways. A rock became a tool. A stick became a weapon. A cave became a home. This knowledge was buried deep in human minds, passed down through countless generations. The Valkyrie invasion had awakened it. Priya, the young engineer from Mumbai, wrote about this in her journal. "The Valkyrie think we are primitive because we use garbage. They do not understand. Using garbage is not primitive. It is the most human thing we can do. Every great invention started as garbage. The first wheel was just a round rock. The first fire was just some sticks. The first computer was just sand and metal arranged in clever ways. We see possibilities where others see waste. This is our gift. This is our power." She was working on something new when she wrote those words. Something that would terrify the Valkyrie more than anything else. It started with a crashed alien ship. Valkyrie scout ship went down in the mountains near Mumbai after being hit by one of Maria's pulse bombs. The ship was damaged but not destroyed. Most importantly, its power source was still working. Priya led a team to recover parts from the ship. They brought back computers, weapons, and the power source itself. Then Priya did something no one expected. She combined the alien technology with human garbage. The result was a weapon unlike anything that had existed before. It looked ridiculous. The main body was made from PVC pipes, the white plastic tubes humans used for plumbing. The power source was Valkyrie, glowing blue and humming softly. The trigger was from a video game controller. The sights were from a broken camera. The whole thing was held together with tape and wire and hope. But when Priya pulled the trigger, a beam of blue light shot out and melted a hole through a concrete wall. "It works," she whispered. "It actually works." She called it the hybrid. Part human garbage, part alien technology. Ugly as sin, deadly as lightning, word of the hybrid spread across the world. Other camps started capturing Valkyrie technology and combining it with their own creations. The results were strange and wonderful and terrifying. In Moscow, resistance fighters built a vehicle from a bus, 2 motorcycles, and Valkyrie shield generators. It could drive through enemy fire without taking damage. In Cairo, engineers created a communication system from old radios and Valkyrie signal boosters. It let resistance camps talk to each other from thousands of miles away, completely invisible to enemy sensors. In Sao Paulo, Maria Santos smiled as she looked at her newest creation. It was a suit of armor built from car doors, rubber tires, and Valkyrie power cells. It made the wearer almost impossible to kill. "The Valkyrie gave us weapons," she said to her team. "They crashed their ships on our planet and gave us weapons. How kind of them." Everyone laughed. It was a good sound. A human sound. The sound of people who refused to give up. On the Valkyrie homeworld, the High Council received reports of the new hybrid weapons. They could not believe what they were reading. "They are combining our technology with their garbage?" asked the Supreme Elder. "That should not be possible. Our technology is too advanced, too complex. It should not be possible," agreed the science advisor. "But they are doing it anyway. They do not understand how our technology works. They simply experiment. They try things until something works. They have no training, no knowledge, no proper tools. Yet they keep succeeding." The Supreme Elder was quiet for a long moment. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have made a terrible mistake. Perhaps these humans are not primitive at all. Perhaps they are something else entirely. Something we have never seen before." He looked at the reports again. Pictures of human weapons made from garbage and alien parts. Pictures of human soldiers in mismatched armor, carrying impossible guns, smiling at the camera. "Perhaps," the Supreme Elder said, "they are exactly what they claim to be. Survivors, adapters, creatures who refuse to die no matter what the universe throws at them." He made his decision. "Send more troops to Earth. Double our forces. Triple them. We must end this war before it spreads. Before other species learn what humans can do." But deep inside, he knew the truth. It was already too late. The garbage wars had begun, and the humans were winning. 3 years had passed since the Valkyrie invaded Earth. 3 years of fighting. 3 years of hiding. 3 years of building weapons from garbage and stolen technology. And now, finally, the tide was turning. Commander Thalvax stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at a map of Earth. When the invasion began, the map showed Valkyrie control in blue and human resistance in red. Back then, the map was almost entirely blue. Now it was almost entirely red. The blue areas grew smaller every day. "How is this possible?" he whispered to himself. "How did we lose?" He knew the answer, but he could not accept it. They had lost because they underestimated humans. They had lost because they did not understand what garbage truly meant. They had lost because no species in the galaxy had ever turned their own waste into weapons of war across the planet. Humans were celebrating victories they never thought possible. In Lagos, the plastic bottle shields had become legendary. Entire neighborhoods had fortified themselves with walls made from bottles filled with sand. The Valkyrie energy weapons could not break through. Soldiers tried to climb over the walls, but were met with spears made from street signs and knives made from broken glass. The Lagos Defense Zone, as it was called, had not lost a single battle in over a year. In Tokyo, Priya's communication system had connected every resistance camp on Earth. For the first time, humans could coordinate attacks across continents. When the Valkyrie moved troops to fight in Europe, camps in Asia would attack their supply lines. When ships flew to protect Africa, drones in South America would strike their bases. The humans moved like water, flowing around every obstacle, finding every weakness. Maria Santos had become more than a legend. She had become a symbol. Her face was painted on walls across the world. Her words were repeated like prayers. We do not need their weapons. We have our own. But Maria did not feel like a hero. She felt tired. 3 years of war had changed her. Her hair had turned gray. Her hands were scarred from building bombs. She had lost friends, lost family, lost everything except her will to fight. She stood on top of a garbage mountain, looking at the city of São Paulo in the distance. The Valkyrie had abandoned the city months ago. Now it belonged to humans again. But it was not the same city. Buildings were damaged. Streets were empty. The world humans knew before the invasion was gone forever. Maria, Paulo called from below. We have news from Detroit. Maria climbed down carefully. Paulo was a man now, not the scared boy she had met 3 years ago. He had fought in dozens of battles. He had killed Valkyrie soldiers with weapons he built himself. He was a warrior, forged in garbage and fire. What news? Maria asked. Paulo smiled. It was a real smile, full of joy. Maria had not seen many of those lately. James Carter and his crew captured a Valkyrie command ship. Not just a scout ship, a command ship, with full weapons, full systems, everything. Maria's heart stopped for a moment. A command ship, the large vessels that controlled entire regions. If humans could learn to use one, how did they capture it? She asked. They tricked it. They set up a fake signal, made it look like a crashed transport ship needing rescue. When the command ship came down to investigate, they hit it with 50 pulse bombs at once. The ship crashed but stayed mostly intact. James says they can repair it within a month. Maria sat down on a pile of tires, her mind racing. A working Valkyrie command ship in human hands. This changed everything. Across the world, similar victories were happening. In Australia, a group of farmers had captured an alien weapons factory. In Brazil, resistance fighters had taken control of a Valkyrie communication station. In Germany, engineers had figured out how to make Valkyrie armor fit human bodies. The invaders were losing ground faster than they could reinforce it. Commander Thalvex called an emergency meeting with his remaining officers. There were only 12 left. At the start of the invasion, there had been 200. We cannot continue like this, said an officer named Krell. Our soldiers refuse to patrol alone. They refuse to enter cities. They refuse to fight humans at close range. The fear is destroying us. Then we must use our ships, Thalvex replied. We must bomb them from above. Destroy their camps. Destroy their factories. What factories? Krell asked bitterly. They do not have factories. They build weapons in garbage dumps. How do we bomb garbage dumps? There are millions of them. And every time we destroy one, they simply move to another. Another officer spoke up. The humans have captured our technology. They are learning to use it. If they gain control of a warship, he did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew what would happen. Humans with Valkyrie warships would be unstoppable. Thalvex made a decision he never thought he would make. Contact the High Council, he ordered. Tell them we need to negotiate. Tell them we need to discuss withdrawal. The officers stared at him in shock. The Valkyrie had never withdrawn from a planet. Never. Not once in 10,000 years of conquest. Commander, Krell said carefully, the Council will never approve. They will send more troops. More ships. They will waste more lives, Thalvex interrupted. I have lost too many soldiers already. I will not lose more. These humans cannot be conquered. I know that now. The Council must know it too. Meanwhile, in Detroit, James Carter stood inside the captured command ship. It was beautiful and strange, full of lights and screens and technology he did not understand. But he did not need to understand it. He just needed to make it work. His crew had spent weeks studying the ship. They had mapped every wire. They had tested every button. They had connected human computers to Valkyrie systems using cables made from telephone wire and duct tape. It looked ridiculous. It looked impossible that it worked. "Power systems online," announced a young woman named Sarah. She had been an electrician before the invasion. Now she was the chief engineer of an alien spacecraft. "Weapon systems online," added her brother Michael. He had been a video game designer. Now he controlled weapons that could destroy cities. James sat in the captain's chair. It had been designed for a Valkyrie body, so he had to add cushions made from car seats to make it comfortable. He looked at the screens around him, filled with alien symbols he could not read. His team had added labels in English using a permanent marker. "Shield systems?" he asked. "Online," Sarah confirmed. "Engine systems?" "Online. Mostly. The left thruster is a little shaky. We reinforced it with parts from a washing machine." James laughed. A spaceship repaired with washing machine parts. Only humans would do something like that. Communications? Michael pressed a button. "This is Detroit Command to all Earth resistance camps. Can you hear us?" Static, then voices. Hundreds of voices from around the world, all speaking at once, cheering, crying, laughing. "They hear us," Michael said, his voice thick with emotion. "They all hear us." James stood up and walked to the front window of the ship. He could see the ruins of Detroit below, lit by fires and moonlight. He could see the stars above, endless and cold. Somewhere up there, the Valkyrie were planning their next move. They were scared and confused and desperate. They had come to Earth expecting easy victory. They had found something else entirely. "Send a message to every camp," James ordered. "Tell them what we have done here. Tell them that the tide has turned. Tell them that we are not just survivors anymore." He paused, searching for the right words. "Tell them we are conquerors now, and we are coming for every Valkyrie ship in our sky." The message went out across the world. In São Paulo, Maria Santos heard it and smiled. In Mumbai, Priya heard it and cried with joy. In Lagos and Tokyo and Moscow and Cairo, humans heard the news and felt something they had almost forgotten. Hope, real hope. The kind that burns bright and never dies. The garbage wars were not over. But for the first time, humans knew they could win. And nothing in the universe could stop them now. 4 years after the invasion began, and the Valkyrie Empire was retreating from Earth. Not slowly. Not carefully. They were running. Every ship that could fly was leaving. Every soldier that could walk was boarding transports. Commander Thalvax had given the order 3 days ago, and now the skies above Earth were filled with Valkyrie vessels, all moving in the same direction, away. Humans watched from the ground, from their camps and fortresses made of garbage and stolen technology. They did not attack the fleeing ships. They did not need to. They had already won. Maria Santos stood on her garbage mountain outside São Paulo, watching the last Valkyrie ship rise into the clouds. She was 63 years old now, her hair completely white, her body tired from years of war. But her eyes were still sharp. Her mind was still strong. Paulo stood beside her, a leader in his own right now. He commanded thousands of fighters across South America. He had helped drive the Valkyrie from the continent. "They are really leaving," he said, almost unable to believe it. "They are really leaving," Maria agreed. "We did it, Paulo. We won." Paulo looked at her, at this old woman who had started a revolution with crushed soda cans and car batteries. "How do you feel?" Maria thought about the question for a long time. How did she feel? She had spent 4 years fighting. She had lost so much: friends, family, the world she knew before the invasion. Nothing would ever be the same, but they had won. Against impossible odds, against the most advanced empire in the galaxy, humans had won. Using garbage, using creativity, using the same stubborn refusal to die that had carried their species through ice ages and plagues and wars. "I feel proud," she finally said. "I feel tired, but mostly I feel proud." Across the world, similar scenes played out. In Detroit, James Carter flew the captured command ship low over the city, letting everyone see. People came out of hiding by the thousands, cheering and crying and waving at the massive vessel. James waved back from the bridge, surrounded by his crew of mechanics and engineers and ordinary people who had learned to fly alien spaceships. In Mumbai, Priya organized the largest celebration the city had ever seen. Music played from speakers, powered by hybrid human-alien technology. People danced in streets that had been battlefields just weeks ago. Children who had grown up during the war saw their first fireworks, made from the same materials their parents had used to make bombs. In Lagos, the defenders of the plastic bottle walls finally opened the gates. For 4 years, those walls had kept the Valkyrie out. Now they welcomed back survivors who had fled to other parts of the continent. Families reunited. Friends found each other. The walls would stay standing, a monument to human creativity. But they were no longer needed for defense. The Valkyrie High Council met one final time to discuss Earth. The Supreme Elder was very old now, his gray skin wrinkled and thin. But his mind was still clear. He needed to understand what had happened. He needed to make sure it never happened again. "Tell me," he said to Kethra, the science officer who had first warned them about human adaptability. "Tell me what we learned." Kethra had spent 4 years studying humans. She had watched them fight. She had watched them build. She had watched them do impossible things with worthless materials. She had come to respect them in ways she never expected. "We learned that not all civilizations grow the same way," she said. "We Valkyrie developed technology through careful planning and order. We designed perfect systems. We eliminated waste. We created efficiency." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Humans did the opposite. They developed technology through chaos and accident. They made mistakes. They broke things. They threw away more than they kept. But every mistake taught them something. Every broken thing became parts for something new. Their waste was not weakness. It was a record of learning, of growing, of refusing to stop trying. The Supreme Elder nodded slowly. "And their weapons?" "Their garbage weapons?" "The garbage weapons worked because humans do not think like us. We see trash and ignore it. We see broken things and throw them away. Humans see possibilities. They see potential. A crushed can is metal. A dead battery is acid. A broken phone is wire and circuits. They could not stop looking at garbage this way. They built weapons without even trying." Kethra showed images on the main screen. Pictures of human weapons that had defeated the mighty Valkyrie Empire. Cannons made from car parts. Shields made from plastic bottles. Armor made from tires and road signs. And the hybrids, the strangest weapons of all. Mixing alien technology with human garbage in ways that should not have worked but somehow did. "We could not defeat them," Kethra concluded, "because we could not understand them. And we could not understand them because they do not follow rules. Not even their own rules. They adapt. They change. They survive. No matter what." The Supreme Elder was quiet for a long moment. Then he gave an order that would change the galaxy forever. "Prepare a warning. Translate it into every known language. Send it to every species we have contacted. Tell them about Earth. Tell them about the humans. Tell them. He paused, looking at the images of human garbage weapons one more time. Tell them never to invade the trash planet. Tell them the creatures who live there cannot be conquered by force. They are too creative, too stubborn, too human. The warning spread across the galaxy over the following years. Species that had never heard of Earth learned about the pale blue planet and its impossible inhabitants. Traders brought stories to distant worlds. Scientists studied recordings of human warfare with fear and fascination. Military academies taught courses about the garbage wars, using them as examples of what not to do. Earth became famous, not for its beauty or its resources or its location. It became famous as the planet that defeated the Valkyrie Empire with trash. Centuries passed. Humans rebuilt their world. They kept many of their garbage fortresses, turning them into museums and monuments. They kept building things from waste, not because they had to anymore, but because it felt right. It was part of who they were now. Aliens eventually came to Earth again, but not as invaders. They came as tourists. They came as traders. They came to see the legendary trash planet and the creatures who lived there. One such visitor was a young Valkyrie named Thalvex IV, a descendant of the commander who had led the failed invasion. He came to Earth out of curiosity, wanting to understand what his ancestor had experienced. He visited Snowpollo first, where Maria Santos had started her revolution. Maria was long dead now, but her legacy remained. Her original camp had become a museum. Visitors could see the first pulse bomb she built, the first armor she designed, the first cannon her team created. They could read her journals and watch recordings of her speeches. Thalvex walked through the museum slowly, looking at everything. A human guide walked beside him, an old woman with kind eyes and gray hair. "Why did you keep all this garbage?" he asked her. "The war ended centuries ago. You could have cleaned it up, made your planet beautiful again." The old woman smiled. It was a smile that reminded Thalvex of something, though he could not say what. "This garbage is beautiful," she said. "Every piece tells a story. Every pile is a monument to what we can do when we have to. We keep it to remember. We keep it to teach our children. We keep it because—" She paused, looking at a display of crushed cans and car batteries, the simple materials that had started everything. "We keep it because you never know when you might need it." Thalvex stared at her. Then he understood. 400 years after the garbage wars, humans were still the same. Still creative. Still stubborn. Still looking at trash and seeing weapons. He felt something his ancestor must have felt all those years ago. A chill that ran down his spine. A knowledge that some creatures should not be challenged. He bowed respectfully to the old woman. "Thank you for showing me your world. I understand now why my people left." The old woman bowed back. "You are welcome anytime, young Valkyrie. We hold no anger for the past. But we also do not forget. We never forget." Thalvex returned to his ship that night. As he flew away from Earth, he looked down at the blue and green planet below. It looked peaceful from up here. Beautiful even. You could not see the garbage dumps or the fortresses or the monuments to war. But he knew they were there. He knew that beneath that peaceful surface lived the most dangerous species in the galaxy. A species that could turn anything into a weapon. A species that refused to die, no matter what the universe threw at them. His ancestor had written one final report before dying decades after the war. Thalvex had read it many times. Now, floating above Earth, he understood it completely. Do not invade the trash planet. The inhabitants cannot be conquered by conventional means. They are a species that thrives on scarcity, finds purpose in chaos, and transforms their own failures into instruments of war. They are not advanced. They are not organized. They are simply relentless. Thalvex looked at Earth one last time. "They are simply relentless," he repeated softly. Then he turned his ship toward the stars and went home, leaving the trash planet and its impossible people behind. On Earth below, life continued. Humans worked and played and built things from garbage, just as they always had. They told their children stories about the garbage wars. They taught them to see possibilities in waste. They prepared them for challenges that might never come.